and we are just on time. That was insane. Spent the last 15 minutes trying to figure out how to get in, and then just randomly it just worked a minute before we were due to go live. Reedie's back from Tassie. We're gonna go proper live in 1 minute. But before we do, I have a special segment, the cold open. It's called the Doueihi prayer, and I would like you all to join me in performing this Doueihi prayer. Our Doueihi, who art in Strathfield, hallowed be thy offload. Thy line breaks come, thy bombs be done on Campbelltown as it is in Leichhardt. Give us this day our weekly sideline conversion, and forgive us for booing you earlier in the season, as we forgive you for playing really shit for quite a long time. Lead us not into spoon contention, but deliver us from the pit of despair. For thine is the field goal, the spiral, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen, G.
Amen, G.
Amen, G. Let's go with the thing we do. Well, we could have done that better. That was a little bit stupid. I think old Jared there had Riverside open in multiple tabs.
Anyway, are we on?
Yeah, she live. Let's go, Jared.
Excellent. West Tigers Faithful, episode 45. I am your co-host, Jared Reedie. I have returned from a 2-episode sabbatical. The man that has basically been a Twitch streamer, a content creator, a social media manager these past 2 weeks. He's steered the ship in such a good way that we've actually evolved in so many others. Joe McCord, I tip my hat to you and I say hello.
Hello, Jared. Congratulations on the engagement.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I thought I saw when the how do you call it, the artwork. I went, Jesus Christ, this is going to be something interesting, but very appreciative. Thanks for ripping probably the best photo I have off my LinkedIn as well. I appreciate that. That was back when I was dyeing the tash. Now I couldn't be fucked doing that, especially now that I'm completely off the market.
Well, look, mate, I'm very glad that I mentioned this on the stream last week. I'm very glad that your partner has no interest whatsoever in your hobbies, because I may have accidentally said on the week prior's episode that look, I didn't specifically say that you were going to propose. I said she was your fiance, and so if she had have seen that, she probably would have put 2 and 2 together, I imagine.
Well, she actually said this because I knew that you had said that because we were giggling about it a little while back. She said, "Yeah, we're lucky that she's not an avid listener. She listens or watches a lot of the shorts, a lot of the YouTube and the Instagram content, but thankfully she's not a WTF listener week to week." Speaking of those of you who are week to week West Tigers faithful listeners, those who engage with the podcast, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, we're on there. Please hit subscribe, hit the bell, get notified when we go live, get notified when we upload the episodes later in the week to Spotify and Apple and the like. But also, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Mac is doing an amazing job with our social media content. We actually have more, I think it's TikTok followers than anything else.
I'm blowing up.
Would you believe it? The CCP loves us. So if you could follow us on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, on X, West Tigers Faithful, just search it up. do us a favour and come and interact with us. We would love you to be a part of that, especially considering, Mac, that we've got there's a lot of good social media content coming.
Mate, the content that I've got running, mate, some of it's out of this world. I dropped the Luke Brooks 100-meter no try last night. Most cursed moments. I've dropped the Benji field goal, legendary moments, and I've been getting pretty stuck into Mitch Moses over this whole Talon De Silva situation. But let's get on with the show because we got a pretty tight ship to run. Let's move to the first segment. We got some shit to talk about.
Indeed, we do. The first one is a good news story that we don't often get from one Danny Weidler. Typically, these days, when Danny Weidler is talking about West Tigers, he's dragging us through the mud, helping out Phil Gould's mate, Lachlan Galvin. But we've got one of the best good news stories I've seen in ages from Alex Twal, and an incredible show of compassion towards a family of 5 from St. Vincent's College in Ashfield. That family of 5 has just lost their dad to cancer. Here's a letter that the assistant principal wrote to Danny about Alex. 2 weeks earlier, their father passed away after a long battle with cancer. Alex recognised one of the boys and shook hands. I said to Alex that we were looking after him and that they've been through a rough time. Alex called the boy back, shook his hand, introduced him to Adam Doueihi, and they had a chat about church. They organised for the other players there to take a photo with him and offered the family game tickets for this weekend. And then as he was leaving, he said verbatim, come and see me if you ever need anything. What a guy, man.
He's a good boy. He's a good egg. Alex Twal. Go check out the TikTok for Alex Twal feature.
Yes, please do that. Make sure that you go and follow. Another good news story, Tigers tipping some money into what I believe is an autism quiet room out in the southwest, Mac. Have you seen something about that? I know that was a good news story.
Yeah. It was actually at the game at Combank Stadium. So during one of the games at Combank Stadium, the Tigers set up a quiet viewing room for kids with autism. I believe it was for maybe family members of like game day staff. But look, I mean, the West Tigers may not be firing on all cylinders on the field, but off the field, they're really making some good moves lately. And they're certainly a very good community club, and I think it's important to recognise that from time to time.
With you there, my friend. Anything else beyond obviously the signing news, which we'll get to in a little bit?
Let's go.
That caught your eye through the week? Nothing.
I mean, aside from the fact that, it's hilarious that Mitch Moses is at it again and he's like brought into his line of sight young Talon De Silva. I think it's just incredible. As I said, I kind of got stuck into him on the socials. The para fans, mate. Come on, you para fans are having an absolute lend, like making excuses for this bloke. Yeah, okay, he might be like the form halfback of the NRL. He might be the best player he could be the best player in the world. It wouldn't make up for his personality deficiencies, mate. Mitch Moses, pull your head in, son.
Yeah, look, I mean, Talon had an absolutely shocking cameo off the pine. There is no doubt about that. But I don't think that any rugby league player, let alone any human being, deserves that at any time. It was pretty poor. Look, we've all copped sprays off halfbacks before, all of us who played the game, but those ones weren't very good. And speaking to a former NRL player who's a mate of mine, the big spray is something that that should really be in the back pocket, but should only be used on the group as opposed to an individual. It's a really fine line, and I think that Mitchell tends to cross it pretty often.
Yeah, he's got behavioural problems, man. I saw I was sort of looking up some Mitch Moses content. I saw a footage of him in the commentary box it might have been years ago. I don't exactly know when, but he's even talking about he never changed a nappy during his whole baby's childhood and stuff like this. I'm like, who the hell is this dude? Like, come on, Mitch. Like, it's like, I don't know. Anyway, para fans, your halfbacks, a wiener.
Well, the way that Mitchell carries on, he was probably having his nappy changed and getting breastfed as well. So, Nonetheless.
Most likely.
Yeah, I
Most
digress.
likely.
Anyway, let's talk about these signings.
So let's talk about the Doueihi re-signing. My God, Adam Doueihi. It was touch and go there for a while. I know that there was plenty of mail that said that the Dragons were going to poach him from under our guard. But while you were gone, career best performance from Adam Doueihi in the 7, and magically Shane Richardson presents another 1 year to his contract. What were your thoughts on Doueihi's re-signing?
Well, first and foremost, I was told mid last week before I had made a return that if it weren't for the Tigers coming back to the table with a second-year deal, he would have been a St George Illawarra player by now. That was how close he was to leaving. Ultimately, he had to favour security. So, therefore, the talk around Perth and wanting to, potentially extract some value there wasn't the case. I did hear that the Tigers upgraded their offer as well. He has put himself in the shop window, but I think that all year he's had a really, really good year. I mean, before a lot of these contract talks really began to ramp up, I thought he had some really good moments, and he was a steady hand in the centres. He's delivered some match-winning moments, particularly at Leichhardt Oval across the year, and ultimately, has become a really important part of this team, particularly these past few weeks. And obviously, the Bulldogs game was the cherry on top. But I guess in terms of the future and where Adam goes from here, and positional play and all those different types of things, I'm really unsure, because it's almost angel and devil on shoulder. I think he's got the long kicking game and the footy IQ that this side has desperately craved all year. We hope for it from Jerome Luai. For one reason or another, it has not manifested in the way that we would have hoped. And Adam brings that. But on the other hand, Adam doesn't necessarily have the speed or the ability to play as square as a Latu Fainu does. And I think that might actually make him a better proposition at 13, as is his work out of yardage. Takes a lot of really good hit-ups, takes pressure off his forwards and his fellow outside backs. So it creates quite the question. And gun to head, I've sat here and I've thought about this for a little while. I think Latu they'll back him to be the 7 next year. And both of them will be given, sort of 6 months to really bed down into their new roles. But that's not to say that Doueihi can't be the one that, kicks the ball 60 metres downfield when required, because he's still going to be in the middle of the field. It doesn't mean that he can't, that he's not going to be there creating points in different sort of places. Having 3 pivots gives you the ability to do more things, and opens up other options for you. So for me, I think that's probably the best option moving forward. But let it be known that I am in complete agreement with the theory that you had a couple of weeks ago before I left, that I think that Adam is now our 7 for the remainder of the year, and Latu should go back and run a side in reserve grade.
I wonder, if we're about to enter an era of a playmaking 13. I know we've just sort of gone through an era of a smaller 13, but truly going back to the Freddie, because I think that there's a bit of a generation of real sizable young players coming through that are actually almost big enough to play in the pack, but they can kick and they can ball play, and it's if they can kick, why not let them kick, right? But at the same time, they're big enough to fill that role as a 13, as a middle defender, or to create that punch through the middle. So play him as a 13, not as a half. I think that's sort of what Doueihi's going to probably be like, but he's not the only one. I think, Lachlan Galvin's probably got that written all over him as well, and there's others too. So look, I personally think that if I was Benji, I'd go into the off season and I'd just give them a genuine competition. I wouldn't say it's yours or it's yours. I'd say Latu, Doueihi, whoever trains the best and whoever does the best. You're both going to train at 7 during this off season. We're gonna, because they need that continuity.
Would you train them both at 13, therefore by extension?
Yeah, probably. I think so. I think Latu maybe not quite the size of Doueihi, but he's probably just as good of a defender, if not better. And he's probably, I think Doueihi probably is a little bit better of a carry. But yeah, that's probably the play, right? You probably just build the system, have them play very similarly in the off season in both roles, and that way you can kind of just figure out which one's best for the role.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good way to do it. And yeah, keep it wide open. And I think that was another element to Adam's retention, that he probably backs himself to play 7 at the Tigers because he only has to beat out Latu. Whereas at the Dragons, there's obviously Shane Jr., King Tongia, Daniel Atkinson, Cade Reed's pushing through now as well. So I think that he definitely backed himself. I think that the Dragons only would have seen him as a lock, whereas he's probably got a month of footy now to really put himself into Benji's mind as him being the 7 that we have craved. That said, once again, gun to head, I think that he ticks more boxes at 13 than Latu does. And as a result, I think that you can utilise him in such a way where he's a third pivot as opposed to a lock forward. And we can get Latu in the wider corridors where I think he personally does his best work. So we'll see what happens.
Good problem to have. Finally, it's a good problem to have. And look, honestly, Latu Fainu is a good talent. If he is who everybody believes he is, and he is who Benji believes he is, he should play himself into the 7 come round 1 next year. But if he doesn't, then he doesn't. We have made some other signings. So while you were gone, there was quite a few. So we signed 3. 2 officially with 1 rumoured. The 2 official signings being young Javon Andrews, the man of the match from the under-19s. What do you know about Javon Andrews?
Javon was actually in the West Tigers system when he was younger. He about sort of 4 or 5 years ago, he was signed on a futures contract when he was still in Brisbane, and the plan was always for him to come back. He actually had a spine injury. He was told it was pretty likely he was never going to play again. At that point, he needed to do his rehabilitation up north, and the contract sort of fell by the wayside. Obviously, the Tigers have kept tabs on him, of course, but to give you an idea around Javon, he is a tall half, but he is more Matt Burton than he is, say, Adam Doueihi or Lachlan Galvin. He has a touch footy background, so can really play off the cuff, has a gorgeous long ball, has a lot of skill and flair, in regards to his passing game. But his short kicking game's really good too. He's got a lot of toe, again, because he's a touch player. So I'm actually really excited about this signing. Big tick from me. We needed to go out and get another half. I don't really have him earmarked for anything in first grade anytime soon. Jock Madden is obviously going to be the next cab off the rank, but I think those two will complement each other really, really well. Jock Madden's always modelled his game off Cooper Cronk. He set it from a very, very young age. Very, very methodical halfback, gets his team to the right points on the field, kicks well. Whereas Javon's all skill and flair, loves to set up on a flat 4 on that left edge, can put a kick in behind, can sort of hit the centre off a long ball or hit the winger really nicely, but it can also run because, once again, he's big, tall and skillful. So really good signing. Was stuck behind a logjam of a million halves at the Titans. We've taken advantage, and in some sense, it's a bit of a homecoming. So yeah, big tick from me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big tick for me also on account of the fact that he's a Titans half. Like, it seems to be the hack to success in the NRL these days is to poach somebody from the Titans who couldn't get a run. So good luck to Javon. The other signing that we made, the official signing that we made, is Maverick Geyer, he's a top 30 contract at Penrith Panther, but he hasn't been able to really force himself into that side. I mean, I've seen a lot of people sort of downplaying Mav as a player. And not much excitement about this potential signing. But, I mean, if you're going to pick a player who hasn't been able to crack a roster at any club, Penrith's probably not a bad place to go, right?
That's right, and a guy that obviously comes from a good system, as you mentioned, but also good pedigree. Obviously, there's always going to be questions around whether he was given further opportunity because of his father, but ultimately, Maverick, as a schoolboy, was offered a contract by the Melbourne Storm, who are amazing at their identification and recruitment, but also looking at certain character traits. They don't offer contracts unless they think that the person has got what it takes and fits within their system, based off who they they are as a person. But let's look at it, strip it right back. Minimum wage 1 year deal, so he's got plenty to prove. He's playing for a contract. He's a body shape that we so desperately desire. That big, tall, boulder type that we don't really have on the edges, apart from a couple of players, mainly in Jersey Flegg. And he's quite defensively sound. There is work to be done on his attacking game, absolutely. But I would much rather him start from that defensive base than us having to develop that side of his game. But I think that you raised a really, really good point a little while back. When compared to, effectively spot 30 on the roster right now is Brendan Tumeth, who is currently playing Sydney Shield, we have upgraded immeasurably. We flipped Tumeth into a guy that actually can realistically do a job in first grade, and when called upon won't let anyone down. But once again, the conditions of the deal really favour the Tigers, and that's a credit to Shane Richardson to get him across. And look, some of the quotes from Shane Elford, I thought, really, sort of spoke volumes of Maverick as a player and a human being, but also what we are getting as a club.
Yeah, I also wanted to just highlight that, I'm not 100% sure Maverick Guy wouldn't instantly be the second best back rower at our club. We've literally got nobody. And Maverick Guy might not necessarily be like a world beater, but if you look, I went on a little bit of a tangent last week about tackle efficiency stats. Maverick Guy's tackle efficiency stats are better than any forward in our packs, aside from Alex Twal and Terrell Mays. And if you look at the players in our starting side that he would be competing with for the starting jersey, of the NRL side, you're looking at Alex Seafarth, you're looking at Tony Sukkar. He's got a better tackle efficiency than both of them. Is he really like a downgrade from an attacking standpoint on those two players? I don't believe so. I believe he's a better attacker than both of them. So, he's got it all to play for. He will be competing for a spot here. The third player that we've been rumoured to sign, it's a very strong rumour, it still hasn't been announced though, is Ethan Roberts. And I know you have big raps on Ethan Roberts.
Wild card in the deck, mate, for a couple of reasons, mainly because of his pedigree. This is a guy that was playing Harold Matthews at 15 years old. This was actually the player that South Sydney wanted to sign as part of a revenge attack against the Roosters after they pipped them to Swalehi, which is an interesting little side story. But unlike a lot of guys that do hit mats early and sort of burn out, he's still big. He's got the body shape. He's skillful, and as a result, I'm very, very bullish on his prospects. Again, has been in the system a very, very long time at the Roosters, very highly touted. He's in their top 30 this year. He's obviously off contract, and by all reports, he's verbally agreed to join us. But amazing line runner, pretty good defensively. He has struggled with the transition from the lower grades, the junior grades, to New South Wales Cup, but it's really no different to what you see from a lot of players. All of that aside, this is a guy that had an amazing preseason at the Roosters and was a bolter for their side. He was the 18th man there for a couple of weeks, which speaks to how highly they valued him. I'm really, really excited about this one. This reminds me a little bit of, buying the dip of a guy who's stuck behind a logjam of players. Obviously you look at the Roosters and their back rowers, Wong, Radley, Egan, Nat, Foketi, these sorts of guys. This is a really, really smart opportunistic signing. Couple of years, minimum wage. I really, really like it, and I'm very, very excited to see him in our colours.
Yeah, I'm quite bullish on Ethan too. I think that for the similar reasons why I think Maverick Guy is actually not a bad signing. Again, it's like he's going to be competing for a spot that's wide open. It reminds me of the Blore signing a little bit. Obviously, Blore had a little bit more of an injury checkered past, which was what had sort of stopped him from coming into grade with Penrith. But similar sort of players, similar size, similar pedigree. similar ages when they came to the Tigers. And, obviously we've got some value out of Sean and he's gone on to bigger and better things. I think Ethan's the sort of player that if you're going to take a bet, you take a bet on Ethan Roberts because he's he's a big kid. He's athletic. He's good between the ears. He's a point of difference. He's somebody who we do not have a prototype for at all anywhere in the roster, going down all the way to bloody under fives, mate. Like, he's a completely unique specimen, and he's a completely unique specimen as an NRL player, really. Like, he's a big lump. Like, his comparison is obviously Angus Crichton. Like, he's a very similar sort of player to Angus Crichton, and he probably models his play off Angus Crichton, I would say.
That's a really good comparison, and I agree with you. There's some tape that's been cut up, coincidentally, or almost rather fittingly. It is against us, but yeah, just a big specimen, strong body, and again of great pedigree. So welcome to the club, Ethan. Pending you are in fact confirmed to come across, Mag. I guess the question now turns to where are we at, in terms of what comes next. Obviously, Doueihi's re-signed now. We assume that Taylor May will extend with the club. He wants to stay. I assume that deal will get done. Roberts will file into the top 30. I don't think he'd come for anything less. And Javon, as far as I am aware, from what I have been told, locks out the development list. So where does that leave us? That leaves us with 2 spots left in the top 30. If you're let's play God a little bit. If you're the director of football, what are you looking into?
I think that we need middles. I think I personally would probably sign 2 middles. I know some people think we need another outside back. I'm not 100% sure that's true. I think now that we've extended Doueihi, Doueihi obviously does provide some cover in the centres. We've still got Stafford, Hiamasi coming through, Luke Lalali'i coming through, and we have a lot more players that I believe will be on training trials that we could probably push through to. Players like Tino Fa'asuamaleaui and what have you, who, in a pinch might be able to emerge, but the middles we're so skint. We're like 1 or 2 injuries away from just absolute crisis mode, and you can see how important that it is to have good depth in the middles in some of the results that we've seen of late. The Dolphins, for example, they've had a crisis in the middle, and they've been able to play their way through it up to a point, but off a cliff on the weekend, and it was mostly just getting smashed through the middle. Those players that were redlining for weeks and weeks at a time just couldn't keep going, and it's come to a grounding halt. And so I think it'd be 2 middles, and I have my eye on somebody in particular, and anybody who's been following us on Instagram will know who I'm talking about.
Yes, I am acutely aware of who you are talking about. Do you have a video to share?
Nah, I don't have the video, but if you want to see it, go to the West Tigers Faithful Instagram. His name's Toby Crosby. I also posted it up on our X account. Toby Crosby, he's a middle forward from Wellington, Upper Hutt, in New Zealand. And he plays in the reserve grade side. The Warriors have lost 1 game all season. They're on a 15-game winning streak or something ridiculous. Now, Toby Crosby is an absolute walking weapon. He is in his spare time he wrestles. He's a jiu-jitsu guy. He routinely grapples black belts into submission. He is massive, strong. He's a power lifter, but he is also so supremely talented. There's footage you'll be able to find of him in a Jersey Flag game last year, where he took it off the kickoff, I believe, and made a straight break and almost outran everybody, palmed off the fullback and scored like a massive long range try. On the weekend just gone, gets the ball about 10 out from the line and absolutely steamrolls Underhill, highly rated Bulldogs middle forward, just steamrolls him, piss off fullback, over try time. And his stats on the weekend were just incredible. He also has a 96.7% tackle efficiency, which, as you can probably tell, is a little bit of an obsession of mine of late. But we've got a middle forward who can score tries, make line breaks. He has high tackle efficiency. He's got like enforcer middle captain written all over him, and he's coming off the bench for the New Zealand Warriors New South Wales Cup side. It was like 135 meters from 11 carries, 10 tackle breaks, 19 tackles, 0 missed. If Shannon Gallant isn't on a plane to New Zealand to try to get this guy, I'm gonna apply for his job.
Well, there you have it. I don't know if Shannon still listens to us, but nonetheless, look, I'm right there with you. I think we need a first tackle enforcer. We'll talk about a little bit about what I saw against Penrith and the Dogs, but it is very, very clear that we need somebody to start off our sets and really get the ball rolling. And it really only just does take that one person to kickstart momentum. And if we can find that, whether it be Toby or in somebody else, or a certain marquee player that we'll talk about in a little bit, then that would be sensational. You mentioned that you would purchase another middle. Is there a certain archetype or a certain player that you are looking at, or have you just got eyes for Toby right now and you worry about what comes next later?
Look, I mean, the other one I'd probably go after is like probably just a bit more of an experienced toiler. Look, Toby Crosby would be a bit of a project. It's similar to Ethan Roberts. Like, he's a player that you just want to bet on, you know. Like, he's 22. He had a really high pedigree as a union player, which is why he's sort of under the radar, because the Warriors brought him in as a union player at the start of last year. So he hasn't come through any kind of league pedigree, so nobody really knows about him. But, you know, I'd just go after somebody like Corey Jensen or something like that. I don't know. I think he might have even recently been re-signed. But that kind of player who, you know, you probably get... You get who on unders. Like, you would be able to get Corey Jensen on unders. That bloke's been starting for the Broncos. Like, and you say Corey Jensen and people are going to be like, Corey Jensen? Who cares, mate? Corey Jensen has better tackle efficiency stats than any player in our side, aside from Alex Twell and Terrell May. And I keep banging on about tackle efficiency, and I'll just quickly just explain why. I did the numbers. I sat down the other night for about 2 hours, and I made a spreadsheet tracking every forward in the NRL who started for their club in their most recent fixtures tackle efficiency. We have the worst average tackle efficiency of any side aside from Souths, who are absolutely decimated with injury. We haven't barely been injured. Like, our forward pack is our starting forward pack. It's our best forward pack. Second worst average tackle efficiency stats of any side in the NRL. So if you want to move the needle north and improve this team, you improve the defense of the forwards, especially the middle forwards. So that's probably where I'm at.
Yeah, we need some of those tradesmen like middles. And obviously, again, like, you know, you look at the team list this week, and once again, you have Royce Hunt, who was recalled. And credit to Royce for working his way back after a couple of weeks in the wilderness. But extended bench Kit Doueihi, and you compare it to some of these other teams getting about and the experience that they have to call upon in their forward packs that are currently sitting in their cup sides. It's something that we're definitely missing. That said, I actually think that we're going to have to try and shop someone. I don't really know who. I think that Solomone Sukuru, given what's happened on the depth chart, I think that he's probably the likeliest. Because now we have a second row depth chart of Sam Weller, Kai Pearce-Paul, Alex Seyfarth, Tony Sukkar, Maverick Geyer, and Ethan Roberts. And then if you include the development boys, you've got Lockie Broadalow and Phoenix Godinay. That is more than enough. I think that Solo is probably the one that falls out, because we need a top 30 caliber middle forward. I am of the belief that we do need another outside. And I get where you're coming from in regards to the training trial list, but in my humble opinion, I do think we need another guy. But again, though, if there are only 2 spots left, then I certainly wouldn't be too disappointed if the club signed 2 middles.
I would go after. I would try to get Kit off the books before Solo. I think that. While Kit's a middle, so it sounds a little bit weird, I don't think Kit's really playable, man. I can't see Kit being very playable for another 2 to 3 years, whereas Solo has quietly had a really good progressive season. He's only just started playing back row, And Solo has incredible utility value. He can play wing, centre, middle, and back row. And he's only just starting to find his footing as a back row. He's only just pushed his way into New South Wales Cup. So I'm more curious about what Solo can be as a player. I think my personal view is I kind of think Kit is a bit more predictable, and I feel like Kit's going to need a lot longer before he's going to be a serviceable first grader. Moving on to the next point here. I want to talk briefly about Tino Fa'asuamaleaui. Now, there was a story that came out that said the Perth Bears were about to make him the most highly paid player in the NRL. Your thoughts on this?
Look, I don't like it because I am a bit of a rugby league purist. I don't believe that with the exception of Payne Haas, the irrespective of cap rises or whatever it may be, that middle forwards just simply aren't worth that money. Isaiah Yeo, Payne Haas, all right, I'm willing to make an exception, but any other one of those players, I don't think so. I think you have to look at it as objectively as possible. Tino really struggles with injury. He you miss him through, from a club perspective, you miss him through those Origin period weeks, and he hasn't overseen a flourishing era of success for the Gold Coast Titans. Now, I don't necessarily blame Tino for going to market. Why wouldn't you? There's a new team coming in, and the coach and the recruitment manager of said team are the guys that recruited you to your current club in the first place. The club that you currently play for is like your mate at school who's been through 2 uni degrees and 3 different career professions by the time he's 30. Okay, I get that. He doesn't have an identity. The Gold Coast Titans don't have an identity. But I just think bending the market completely out of shape for middle forwards is the wrong thing to do. And I think Mal's going about it in the wrong manner. Mate, go after Cameron Munster. Do the right thing. You obviously with a lot of these Queenslanders, with a lot of these boys in the Kangaroo squad. I don't know if Tino's your guy. In terms of his leadership qualities, yes, he absolutely possesses some, and he drags everybody on his back. But is he worth 1.5 million? I'm not too sure.
It's spare a thought for what that would do to the bloody Titans, who they've got to be this. They're probably not the spoon favourites because Souths have probably got it in the bag.
Well, look, as Tino's, I think Tino's actually said himself, like the club doesn't owe him anything, and realistically, Tino hasn't said this, but he doesn't owe the club anything either. They can easily shake hands and go, look, it hasn't worked. We wish you all the best, but this is a club where it was at a severe crossroads before Justin Holbrook took over. He rebuilt that joint in his image and did a fantastic job, might I add. And I actually think now, with the gift of hindsight, instilling Des Hasler into that club was the absolute wrong thing to do. Could anybody have foreseen that he would have, his methods would have, sort of gone out of date so quickly? Probably not. But I think there needs to be some serious questions asked about the Frizzels and the Titans. And I know that this is easy to talk about, it sounds hypocritical as a Tigers fan. We've just won 3 spoons. But ultimately, we have heritage and culture and a history behind us, whereas the Gold Coast, do not have that. And once again, they are staring down the barrel of, another few more years in the wilderness. With David Fafita sounds like he's said and done a South, and Tino's going to try and leverage them to try and land himself the best deal he possibly can.
Yeah, I honestly feel sorry for the Titans at this point. I think, aside from us, they're probably the most maligned and underperforming team in the NRL. And in more news, Charlie Staines, his bags have been packed and he's heading over to Catalan to join Solomon Afatape there. And we won't talk about that too much, but at the moment, I believe that has been made official.
I wouldn't know for certain, mate, but it was certainly reported upon from a UK rugby league source, and they're typically pretty good with these things. They tend to break just as they're about to be announced. Charlie was told by the Tigers that he wasn't going to be offered a contract. He looked to pursue his options elsewhere. I think that Charlie will absolutely tear up the Super League. His game, his speed, his ability to sort of cut through in broken play will suit the Super League right down to the ground. I think he'll have a really, really good career over there. Wish him all the best. Tried his guts out. Had some really interesting moments here, obviously, with his bowel injury and being a part of some pretty lean years. But, Titans game aside, he's had a wonderful year this year and done such a good job when called upon. So I wish him all the best.
I agree. Good luck, Charlie, in France. Moving on. So you've been gone for the last 2 weeks, so I thought it'd be a good idea to just let you off the chain. You haven't had a chance to really talk about the last 2 games. So we're going to call this segment Reedie's Review. Knock it out of the park, Jared.
Sure thing. Obviously, the Penrith game was a little while ago now, and after a win against the Dogs, you forget it a little bit, even more. To be honest, I think the easiest way to sum up this match is the fact that Penrith actually really respected us. There are teams that have come up against us, particularly from 2022 to 2024, that just go, I'm going to push that pass today, or I am going to opt for the low percentage option, and it will come off because I'm playing the West Tigers. There was a lot of build-up throughout the week that Penrith basically said it, and especially after they played us at Bankwest in the prior fixture earlier in the year, where we went within a whisker, that they were really, they were not underestimating us as opponents, and that was absolutely true. But as a result, it was a real indication of where we were at. I thought the first 15, 20 minutes, we were excellent. Right into that game up to our eyeballs. Momentum continued to swing. It was very end-to-end. I look back now with the gift of hindsight and wonder whether or not taking the 2 at that point, when I think, we did have Penrith struggling there for a little while, was the right option. But look, Penrith were always going to win that game. It was just a question of how much, and obviously to lose by 34 was pretty disappointing. But a lot of the recurring themes against these better teams, are beginning to show a little bit in terms of yardage and those types of things. And I can understand why Benji did look to shuffle the pack a little bit, both during in that game and against the Bulldogs. Look, it was a sobering reminder of pretty much where we're at. Penrith are obviously the form team of the comp right now. They are going to run top 4 after they were 17th at one point. We did go within a whisker at one point, but they've got their tails up now and they're in form, and they are showing exactly why they've won the last 4 competitions, and they are every chance of winning a 5th.
But just before you move on, Jared, there's a notification I'm getting here that says that you have Riverside open in other tabs, and it may disrupt the stream. So if you want to just find your second tab and close it, that would be awesome.
I'm really sorry. I do not have any other tabs open whatsoever beyond this one.
All good then. It's probably just a bug. Bulldogs game though. I mean, let's talk about what people are here to actually hear. How did you watch it when you were in Tasmania, or were you a little bit too preoccupied with the lady?
A bit of both. So actually, I'll tell the story. We were in the great gallery that is Mona, just as kickoff started. So I actually threw my phone in Bianca's handbag and said, I don't want to know. It'll ruin my day, or if they start winning, then I won't be able to stop thinking about it. So, mate, I got out of there when there was 20 minutes to go, and at that point, I think it was 26-8 or something along those lines. I couldn't believe my eyes, to be honest with you. And obviously, as a Tigers fan with 20 to go, you're still sitting there going, "Oh God, they could find a way to lose this." But sure enough, we didn't. Watching the game back. As I mentioned earlier about Adam Doueihi, in regards to Adam Doueihi's retention, the clear injection of footballing IQ in that spine helped us so much. But it's amazing what this side can do when they do have their tails up. We are an emotional team. Cooper Cronk, for the first time in giving analysis about the Tigers, was correct. For me, our line speed was the best it has been for months. We worked incredibly hard off the ball. Our work in our effort areas were second to none. But once again, just the work of Adam Doueihi, his presence, his IQ, his ability to bark instructions is what we've missed. Jerome does do a bit of it, but ultimately hasn't been able to gain the same effects. And look, it was a wet weather game. It was played between the 20 metre lines, but. We took our opportunities and we took our chances. The Bulldogs didn't, and they were up for that. Make no mistake, they were really up for that. But so were we, and we came away with a win. Look, I do think that the first half did sort of paper over the cracks that were the second half. I felt like we didn't necessarily play conservatively, but the Dogs definitely outmuscled us. I think that their line speed and their contact was far better, and thankfully Peter Goff rightly called them offside. That was something we struggled against Casey when Casey Badger was the referee last time. Everybody knows that. A good referee finally, made those calls, and rightly they were pinged for it. But again, it really speaks to the fact that we do need that play one enforcer, and we need to continue to push on and play for 80. But again, the injection of IQ and smarts, I'm hopeful that we can develop that into Latu and sort of develop his confidence in his voice. But it was really clear how much we had truly missed that, and it was evidenced by Adam Doueihi's performance and his effect on the game.
So do you think that game is a turning point for us? Do you think that like we should is it a flash in the pan driven by high emotion, or was there something deeper there? Was there something that you could take away from that performance and actually hang your hat on and say, you know what, that's going to actually be the game we look back on as the turning point for Benji Marshall's West Tigers?
Great question. I think what you led with at the top of the last week's episode was right on point. It was the first time that within a high emotion, high intensity build up, that Benji Marshall finally got it right. He channeled the emotion in the right way. He got spoon bowl absolutely incorrect, and that was probably about 11 months ago now. There's been other games where you wish that we had gotten it right, and the preparation, was lacking. Obviously, there wasn't too much emotion riding on the 64-0 loss against Melbourne, but the nothing to lose attitude, I think, doesn't work at West Tigers. It's not something that you can preach and you can push. Whether or not, I do say this a lot, nothing is ever as good or as bad as it seems. And we won't know until this week in terms of where we sit and coming off a bye, because yes, we've had the week off, the boys haven't been at training, by default, you're always, feeling a bit better physically, but whether or not they're raring to go and sort of redlining come kickoff is another thing entirely. Very interested to see what happens there. But look, I'd like to think it's a turning point. You look at the wins we've had against good sides this year, or, going toe-to-toe and sort of losing marginally against good sides. This was a game where we beat a premiership contender. Cronulla are a good side, but realistically this year they aren't a premiership contender. This really showed the boys what they can do. It's just about channeling that emotion and aggression every single week, doing those things week to week and making sure you're right there, because that is the standard now. That's sticking the pole in the ground. So we'll see what happens this week, mate.
Absolutely. Let's get to the next segment, Jared.
Indeed, let's do that now. So I think that a lot of the really ironed-on listeners of this podcast will remember that we did a back-to-front comprehensive look through the junior squads for this year. So that also includes State Cup, Jersey Flag. We talked through SG Ball, Harold Matthews, and to a lesser extent, both Laurie Daly and Andrew Johns Cup. And what that culminated within at the end of the episode was a draft where we picked our top 5 players to watch, and we were going to do a section where, sort of midway through the year, we would check up on how they're going, and it was going to be something that we continue to do every year. So 5 picks, check through the year, 5 picks, check through the year, and suddenly, you've got a squad of, 25 to 30, and, whether or not blokes end up playing State of Origin or, end up playing Ron Massey Cup, we were going to follow them as best as we could. I will happily say, cards on the table, I have lost this one by the length of the Flemington Straight, but nonetheless, you got to sack up and you got to call it as it is. And also, these players are young, and players develop in different ways at different times, and we'll see what happens. But Mac, I'll let you have this one.
No, look, I mean, we should. I don't think that's a foregone conclusion. I think on the progression of each player in 2025, I think so, especially because the guy that I made my number 1 draft pick was out of nowhere. Just to recap, what were your selections, Jared? Do you remember, or do you want me to read them out here? I've got them up here.
Please read them out, and then I can. I don't have them in front of me. I know
I've got them in front of me here, of
Please.
course. So you get look. I think yours are a bit better than you think. You had Phoenix Godney, who ended up an Australian schoolboy, so congratulations on that. Archie Duncan, who has been pushing his claims in the Jersey Flegg fringe, and he is still young, so there's plenty of potential in Archie. You also had Callum McMenemy, who his development has not necessarily been all that I think you probably expected it to be, along with Peter Ty and Ali Carnib. So how do you feel about your selections in retrospect?
Some have obviously progressed really, really well. Namely Phoenix, as you mentioned, Australian schoolboys, and he's now starting in Jersey Flegg week to week, which is great. And you can tell that he is adapting to that competition again. There's a really, really good video that the Phoenix sort of put up on his own Instagram where he gets knocked out in his first ever Harold Matthews game, and he said that he had to sort of employ bumpers and those sorts of things. He's going through that growth development phase again in Jersey Flegg, where there was a couple of moments where last week or maybe against Canberra, he got slapped a few times, got sort of dominated on both sides of the ball, and then he put on this absolute bell ringer of a hit, and you go, well, there's the Phoenix you know. Archie, on the other hand, I don't know Archie personally, but I know of him through a mutual friend. Great kid, amazing character. I think he did a really, really good job leading that SG ball side in a reasonably unsuccessful year. He sees himself as a middle, so he is converting to that, and I think he absolutely has first grade pedigree and upside. Cannot wait to see where he ends up. I think he'll end up doing a cup pre-season next year, and I think he will push on from there. But really, really keen to see him get proper minutes in Jersey Flegg as the weeks go on. But McMenemy and Carnib both looked, promising in their own moments. Obviously, Ali was ruled out for the season after round 1 in SG ball. I know how excited the club was for him to sort of be there. At fullback in his second year of SG ball. That hasn't gone the way that anybody would have been, delighted with. But he's a champion and a great character, and he'll get back on the horse. Callum, I know, is ripping up a lot of West Tigers Pathways matches, the ones that are available on Bar TV Sports. He's been doing some good things, and he's got all effort, good character, and just a competitor. So not super worried. He'll get his moment in the sun in Jersey Flegg when the time comes. But obviously, when compared to a couple of the other picks, not going super well.
And Peter Ty, he's actually pushing himself through into Flegg fringe now too. So actually not a bad pick. That his season was obviously derailed by a really sickening injury too. So I don't look. I mean, I personally think, I've got the chocolates in terms of the fact that all 5 of my picks, 4 out of 5 of my picks have progressed to consistent Jersey Flegg. But you have in Phoenix, you might have the best players still. It remains to be seen. My picks were number 5 was Max Tautua, who just quietly scored 3 tries on the weekend for Jersey Flegg.
He's been wonderful. He's actually probably been. There's been guys that have come in and done different jobs, but he's been there from round 1 and arguably their best player. So
yeah, and he seems like the sort of player that I think is going to be pretty comfortable. I don't know what it is, but there's just something that tells me he's going to be pretty comfortable slipping into the train and trial New South Wales Cup. He's probably a 2027 development candidate type player, and a bit of a dark horse, to be honest. So actually, he's big, strong, fast, can find the line. Dark horse indeed. My number 4 pick was Jared Hayward, who is possibly the best player on the list. I am right there. Jared Hayward, obviously, it was an easier pick because I think he was an Australian schoolboy last year. But Jared Hayward's obviously carving out a consistent time as the 9 in Flegg, and has actually featured in New South Wales Cup. Christian Tapau-Morse was my 3rd pick, who has only just now started playing Flegg consistently, but obviously has a dev deal now. He played quite well on the weekend for Flegg, to be honest. You can catch the Flegg highlights on our channel, actually chopped up. So you can actually go to the West Tigers Faithful channel on YouTube and find the highlights of the Jersey Flegg, which we'll talk about a little bit more later on. My number 2 player is Cameron Canard. Now, I don't want to say too much negative about Cameron. He started the year in Flegg. He's kind of just been pushed down the depth chart a little bit, I feel. But I still rate him. I still think he's got a good chance of coming through and playing, more New South Wales Cup next year, and potentially, being a little bit later down the line. But he may even just get poached and go to another club.
He did have a cup debut. Don't forget that.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he did have a cup debut. And shout out to Cameron. He actually liked one of my TikToks, so good on you, Cameron. And my number one pick, which was absolutely cold read based on seeing 2 highlights, was Logan Brooks, who has become the consistent fullback, pushing some seriously good players out of the way in doing so. Started the year in SG ball and on a Shane Sultanas tutelage pushed his way into first grade. And I do have a highlights reel package that I made for Logan Brooks that I put all over social media. It's on YouTube, it's on TikTok, it's on Instagram. And I know Logan's a big listener of the podcast, so shout out to Logan. Hopefully we can get you on the podcast real soon, my friend. But yes, it is pretty fucking obvious that I smashed you to pieces, Jared. Sucked it.
Yeah, I think that's a win by knockout for you, mate. But I think we've both been pretty gracious and displayed plenty of sportsmanship. But I look forward to sort of talking about it again on the eve of the junior rep seasons again in January. But look,
yeah, you got me next year.
And still, I mean, we'll do a pathways review at the end of the year as we always do, split it up into a million apps. But you've done very, very well for yourself, and also become pretty buddy with Logan as well. So.
I mean, we've had one conversation. You know what I mean? Like, it was actually interesting to find out, though. Like, I mean, I posted the highlight. The way it worked, I posted the highlight reel up on Instagram, and I think a couple of the boys saw it. Shout out to Felipe Huahulu, who likes everything we post on Instagram. He seems to be, but I think he likes everything. A little bit like Sione Fainu. Who also likes everything that anybody posts related to the West Tigers on Instagram. But yeah, I saw a couple of the boys like the Logan Denninger highlight, Logan Brooks highlight. His name's Logan Brooks on Instagram, but it's Denninger in the match day, team list. So I don't know what he wants. Tell us what you want us to call you, Logan.
He was
anyway,
probably struggling to deal with the Luke Brooks relation allegation.
Maybe
it's as simple as that.
Maybe, but yeah, I digress. He followed us on Instagram, so I just thought I'd message him and just say thanks for the follow, and then said thanks for the highlight reel video. And I said, no, I've been singing your praises since the preseason. He said, yeah, I've been listening to your podcast the whole time. So apparently, yeah, maybe maybe Logan Brooks this whole season came because we built his confidence, Jared. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe in the preseason he's like, these boys know my name. And he pushed his way into first grade. Wouldn't be the first time that's happened, would it?
No, it wouldn't. And our rugby league influence will be cemented when Toby Crosby signs a 5-year, $5 million deal at the West Tigers in a couple of months.
This is all roads leading to Joe McCord, CEO of the West Tigers in 2035.
It is written. Anyway, let's move on. Sunday, 2:00, as part of the mini Indigenous Magic Round, which I think is a wonderful initiative. The only issue is obviously Allianz's surface. We will be playing the Sea Eagles in the very now familiar 2:00 Sunday time slot. Team news: Stafford Toa is back. Very, very happy about that. Was in dire need of a couple of weeks off. Giving him a week before the bye will mean that he is absolutely raring to go. Adam Doueihi retains the number 7 jersey, as he so rightly should. Fanua Bole moves into the starting side. Whether or not he deserves that remains to be seen. Alex Twal goes to lock forward, obviously with the suspension of one Alex Seyfarth. And on the bench, Charlie Murray is the replacement effectively for Alex. Latu Fainu remains jersey 14. I think that's pretty much it as far as team news for the Tigers. Over at the Sea Eagles, look, they do have a few guys out, obviously Paseka, Croker, etc. But the main out from the week prior is Jake Trebojevic. Obviously, attacking output, he doesn't really give you much anyway, but obviously his defensive work and his leadership is invaluable to that team. They will certainly miss him. That is pretty much it as far as team news goes. But Mac, I want you to talk to me about what you think allows us to win this game. What are you looking for? What would you be telling the boys in the lead up?
Don't overthink things. Manly are not a great side, but they will beat us if we beat ourselves. You know what I mean? So, and that tends to be the way of things with the West Tigers. It seems to be It's interesting. The last two games actually are really good case studies into this. The Penrith game was the first time this season that I felt like we got just beaten by the better side by a mile, right? The Tigers showed up and were beaten by the better side. That's, it sucked to lose by such a big score, but to lose on merit, that's what happened there. Then we showed up the next week and we won on merit. So the last two results, actually felt like genuinely reasonable results, whereas in the past it's been like we beat the Newcastle Knights on their worst day. The Dolphins game earlier in the season was a pretty good game, but most weeks it seems like that we lose because we sucked. So I genuinely think that if the Tigers show up with a good attitude, I don't think they have to be at their absolute best to win this game, but it's going to largely come down to attitude, building off of the foundation that they started to build in the Bulldogs game. Running the same plays, run the same game plan, play your game. Don't fall into the trap of trying to beat Manly where you think that they're weak. Build on the fact that now Doueihi and Luai are batting 1,000 as a halves combination. Bula's going to be another week back from his injury. Sam Weller's going to be another week back from his injury. We're running our strongest possible team, really. Alex Seyfarth is out. Of any player in our 17 to not be playing this week, he's probably the one that's maybe, not necessarily going to, move the needle one direction or the other. No offense to Alex. Actually, that was pretty offensive. I'm sorry, Alex. But it is true, unfortunately, mate. It's just true. I'm sorry. But anyway, so long story short, I would do that. I think that Manly, they're just average everywhere this year. They've obviously got two of the greatest players of our generation in 7 and 1, but those two guys are not at their best. Daly Cherry Evans, since he decided that he wasn't going to renew with Manly, his form has tanked. Turbo's not playing the same way. Lehigh Hopewadi's come back into the side, and Turbo's kept his one jersey. Whether that stays the same by the time the kickoff happens remains to be seen. And obviously we've got Brooksy, right? Just run at Brooksy, piss him off, remind him of the barbecue, get stuck into him. But it's the same thing. We played Manly earlier in the year, and I was very confident because I thought Manly were a little bit, I haven't had raps on them all year. But we showed up and we just shot ourselves in the foot, and they did the job. So I think this week we just got to show up with a better attitude. And I feel confident in it because it really did feel like that. The last 2 weeks showed that the team are trying to play as a team. They're playing for each other. They're playing for the coach. There's no silly selfishness. We just ran into a Penrith buzzsaw. And then we ran into the Bulldogs in bad conditions, and we were the buzzsaw. So, what about you? How do you feel about this one?
I really don't know. I was speaking to the great Dan Talentire, who is the old West Tigers media manager and now my boss. Effectively, he said something to me today, and I completely agree with him. It doesn't matter what the scoreline will be, whether they beat us by 40, they beat us by 2, we beat them by 40, we beat them by 2. You can make sense of any storyline in this game because it's just so unpredictable. You look at Manly on paper, and they are simply on paper, and their 1-7 is golden. You have speed, size, and flair amongst Saab, Hopewadi, and Turbo. You have Garrick, who is one of the great effort players in this league. You have Brooks and Cherry Evans, who have moments of absolute brilliance. But then you have a look at their forward pack and you go, okay, all right, well, it's Dad's Army and there's no one there particularly inspiring. But they absolutely ripped us a new one through the middle last time. And I'd like to give credence to what Blaine had to say. You would hope that our middles are wanting to atone for the performance at Brookvale that night. Now, look, we had half our spine out, but we ultimately lost that game. off some really ugly kicks. So, we did not defuse bombs and did not sort of kill the ball on fifth tackle options. A very more experienced, and I would argue a worse forward pack made us look second rate. That was really disappointing. They didn't really do anything of note until minute 40, and they were in much better shape than us, and we didn't have Buller or Jerome Luai that night, who you'll remember was ruled out with a boil a few hours before kickoff. I'm really
such a Tigers injury, such a Tigers out,
isn't it? Look, I really don't know with this one. Coming off a bye, we actually have one of the worst records with everything because we've just come off 3 spoons, but we're pretty terrible coming off a bye. I'd like to hope that, talking about what we were discussing earlier, that, that the game against the Bulldogs was a turning point, but whether or not that happens remains to be seen. I think that this game has to be won in the middle, and you have to ensure that, when the ball inevitably does go wide, providing that you do your job in the middle and you ensure that you get on top of them, that you are ready to go to deal with what's to come in regards to. We all saw what Kohler did on Friday night. For God's sake, Stafford Toa is going to have his work cut out for him, and I don't think they would have played him if he wasn't 100%. But this is going to be a really, really interesting game. I'm very, very curious to see how it goes. But again, with the footballing IQ and the intelligence of Adam Doueihi at 7, with the fact that we have guys that that weren't in this side on that day, Jareen Buller just gives us so much at the back. Taylor May, obviously, at left centre, is a wonderful footballer. I'm really, really, and obviously Uppy back at 9. I'm really excited, really, really excited about this one. I think it'll be a cracker.
Yeah. All right. We haven't been doing predictions lately, but for the gram, I think it's important. What we're going to do this week is a little bit different. So we're actually going to do a full round of tipping. We haven't done that ever before, but now that we've blown up on TikTok, we've got followers from around the league, so we have an obligation to diversify the content slightly. And I'm sure that everybody's keen to know Jared and Max tips for the round, so you can put your bets on, so that you can go over to Ned's or Sportsbet or whatever it is and put your bets on. And you know what, Jared? What we're going to do is we're going to do your winner, you tip the score, player of the match, and I want you to also do the line. Can you do that for me? I'll read out the line, and we'll start. Hang on, let me just bring up the line. I'll just grab my phone. While we're doing that, talk about the Tigers game. Your prediction.
Obviously, with losing Gerbo, they've got 2 frail defensive bodies in Tavanga and Simpkin, both defending in the middle. I think Torque Aho and Lodge both grew enough leg last time. If I were Benji Marshall, I would be telling them to both May and Bolle to get personal and make sure that they win by knockout on Sunday afternoon. I'm really, really curious to see how this game goes. But dry track, I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I don't think we win this one personally. I think Manly will be a little bit more desperate, closer to being only, I think, 2 points out of the A. How much we lose by, I'm not too sure. I would love to be wrong, but I do see Manly winning this one, unfortunately.
Man of the match.
I'll go Lehigh Hopewadi, back from injury on the wing, doing some crazy shit.
All right. West Tigers have 4.5 start. Do you think that they'll cover it? Do you think Manly?
Yeah, I think they'll cover the line. I think it'll be close. I don't like. I dead set think there could be a field goal in this game. But again,
you think they won't cover?
As Dan was saying earlier in the day, the scoreline could genuinely be anything. And if you didn't show me a minute of the match and I looked at the scoreline afterwards, irrespective of what it was, you could sort of imagine the game in your head.
So 19-18, or come on, throw a scoreline prediction down.
Yeah, let's go 19-18.
All right, I'm feeling a win. I'm feeling a win 28-18. I think that means the Tigers obviously cover the line, and I think the man of the match this week is going to be Api Coruscant. Let's talk about the Panthers versus the Storm Thursday night game, 7:50 p.m. Combank Stadium. Penrith coming 4th, Storm coming 2nd. Match of the round, potentially match of the year. Huge match. Your thoughts, Jared?
No Ryan Pappenhausen, no Jerome Hughes for the Melbourne Storm. I think that they played a very brave Brisbane side last week, but obviously one that was ultimately rudderless, and they're on the road. Penrith are humming at the minute. I think, and they really need to cement their place in the top four. I think Penrith win 1-12, but I think it's a pretty foregone conclusion from my perspective.
Man of the match?
I'm going to go Dylan Edwards.
Goal score?
Oh, okay, all right. I reckon that one ends up 22-10.
Yeah, look, I'm going to tip Penrith, but I'm not confident. I know Paps being out does, on paper, change things. But I think Penrith, if they're going to lose a game, it's going to probably be this one. I mean, even though Melbourne are missing Ryan Pappenhausen, they're still a bloody good side. And it's tough to just continue to win match after match after match after match. And you know Craig Bellamy's going to have Melbourne in semi-finals, Nick, for this game, regardless of whether or not Ryan Pappenhausen is or is not in the side. I think it's going to be an absolute tight one. Just looking at the line, I believe that it was a 4.5 line as well. 4.5 line. Penrith obviously giving Melbourne the start. I'm going to go Penrith 22, Melbourne 20. Man of the match, Nathan Cleary. That's what I think is going to happen. Next game is the Warriors versus Dragons on Friday night. Warriors on a bit of a slide. Your thoughts?
They are on a bit of a slide, but I think that the form lines are interesting here. St. George have been exceptional these last couple of weeks with some wins against good opposition in poor conditions. But I think that this is the week where the form lines begin to change a little bit. I think Warriors at home, I think they'll sort of take stock through the week. They've made some changes on the side, obviously with Tanner Boyd coming back into the side, meaning they want a steady hand. I just think that, I think they'll probably stick a fork in the ground here, the Warriors, and get the job done. Score, I think it'll be really tight. I think it'll be low scoring. It wouldn't surprise me if it was 16-14, but I do think that the Warriors get that done.
I'm tipping an upset here. It's my upset of the round. I think the Warriors are doing their annual wobbly boot. I think since Metcalf's gone down, they haven't figured things out at all. The Dragons, I don't rate the Dragons all that much, but they've been in some pretty good contests lately with some good and bad teams. They're hard to predict, really hard team to predict. But what I can predict with pretty much certainty is that they will be there to win. They will be there to compete. Shane Flanagan does get them up round after round. They don't show up and they don't tank. Without Luke Metcalf, it's just not the same side. They're also missing Kurt Capewell. Tamari Martin's out, so Tanner Boyd's going to come back into the side, who did not play well when he was given a shot. I know he was he was the guy that I was talking about compared to Jerome Luai. I take that back. I actually think the Warriors are going to go down to the Dragons here. I actually have a feeling that the Dragons might actually do it pretty easily too. I'm going to go 30-18. The Dragons to win this game. I think Gutho will get man of the match. The line there is 5.5. The Dragons have a 5.5 start with Neds. So the next game is the Roosters versus Bulldogs. Roosters coming off thrashing Dogs. Dogs 1-2. So this could be it's a bloody good round, isn't it?
Mate, this is the match of the round. I think that this is the bigger game compared to Melbourne and Penrith, simply because of the form of the two sides. They played out an epic clash where Nwanga Nitawazia scored one of the best individual set up one of the best tries you'll ever see. I like the Roosters in this one. I think they're really primed. I think that their pack is the antithesis of Canterbury's. I think that, they will have blokes like Spencer Leniu and now Fahu White running right down Lachlan Galvin's channel, who will be forced to attempt at least 30 tackles. I think he'll probably miss about 20 of them. And Connor Tracy's a really, really big part of this side. I love watching Stephen Crichton go to work as a fullback in attack, but it means that they lose out on the flanks there. I think that Rinakama has actually shown a little bit of his inexperience these past few weeks. For me personally, I think that the Roosters are primed. Sam Walker is one of my absolute favourite players to watch. He continues on this very successful comeback from injury to prove his doubters wrong. I really do like the Roosters in this one. I don't think they win. I think it's close. I think it's probably about 6 to 8 points in it. I reckon about 24 to 20. That'd be my tip. But yeah, Roosters for mine.
You got me thinking. I think the Bulldogs are going to win. I just don't know what to make of the Roosters. Like, to come out and absolutely put up the numbers that they did last week, they're obviously a different side with Walker in it. He's changed the complexion of that side, something fierce. But I'm not willing to underestimate the Dogs. I know we beat them, but they came out last week and they were good. I think that they're a better side than the Roosters, even though the Roosters are a different side with Walker, even though the Roosters are probably performing on their ladder position compared to how good of a side they actually are. I think the Dogs get this one in a real tussle. I think this one might be, something like 18-16 or something like that to the Dogs.
Regardless, it is going to be an absolute cracker.
Yes, definitely watch that one Friday night, 8 p.m. That's going to be a classic. Sharks versus the Titans on Saturday at 3 p.m.
It screams blowout. I think that the Sharks win and win well. This is really cement their place in the 8, work on their for and against, and really pull away from, sort of those teams between 8th and sort of 11th or 12th. I don't know where the line's at. Where is the line at, mate?
So Neds are giving... Neds are giving 10.5. 10.5. It's a big line.
Oh, I think that's being generous. I think that's being respectful to the Titans. I think the Sharks win this 42-10.
Wow, you're really going big. Look, I think the Sharks are. I don't. If there's a match the Titans are going to win in the run home, I think it's going to be this one. The Sharks are just so. They're the quintessential side that performs poorly against the opposition that they should perform well against. They've got that Tigers curse about them. I'm not going to tip the Titans, but I'm certainly not confident in the Sharks at all. Look, if the Sharks come out slow and keep the Titans around, halftime, it's evens, or even the Titans go into halftime with a lead, the Sharks are going to struggle in the second half. The Titans can get in the mood, and when they get in a mood, they've got the players that can really rack up points. And the Sharks sort of this the sort of side that can cop a shellacking from a bad team on the wrong night. There's a day game. Look, I think I'll go Sharks too. I think I'll give the Sharks this one. I'm not going to have them covering the 10.5. I think the Sharks will win this game 24-20 with a bit of fighting off the Titans comeback. Man of the match for me. I haven't been to a man of the match. Man of the match for me. I think Jaden Campbell will probably be man of the match if the Titans win. I'll
go Will Kennedy.
I think that Campbell will be the best player on the field, but because I think the Sharks are going to win, I think that they'll give man of the match to Nico. All right, the next game of the round is the Broncos versus the Dolphins. Up here at Suncorp Stadium, 5:30 p.m. on Saturday. I might actually go to that game because why not? It's a bit of a fun one. The Dolphins obviously coming off a thrashing. Broncos now without Reynolds, without Ezra Mam. So what's your tip here? This is a tough one.
Well, this is the interesting thing. You would think that, for a team usually losing their starting halfback, starting 5'8", and they're starting, or one of their better outside backs, so you'd be sitting there going, okay, all right, well, maybe not get this done. Let's say hypothetically that we lost Doueihi and Peruva, you'd probably write us off. But The beauty of being the Brisbane Broncos is that you can replace one 300-game halfback with another, and you can bring in an absolute gun winger in Karapani, who was actually keeping Cobbo out of the side there for a little while. And you've got a steady hand in Billy Walters, who ultimately is more of a 9 these days, but he won't let you down nonetheless. For that reason, I do think that despite their injuries, the Bronx do get this done. I think there's just too much star power and starch within that forward pack. But in addition, there's a lot of injuries to this Dolphins side as well. Obviously, Frank Mullo is out after last week. I believe he's suspended. But also on top of that, like, Herbie Farnworth is just so crucial to that team and their attacking shapes, and he's not there anymore. You know, there were times where they would simply just throw Herbie the ball and expect something to happen around him. They don't have that anymore. And for that reason, I'd be loath to tip against the Broncos. Score, I think that, that's a good question. I reckon it probably ends up about 28-10.
Yeah. Fair enough. I disagree. I think the Dolphins are going to flog them.
I would love to see it. Genuinely love to see it. There are very few teams I hate more than Brisbane, but I just can't see it.
Yeah. So, reason being, the Dolphins are 8th. The Broncos are 6th. The Dolphins are 2 points behind the Broncos with a better points differential. So, if the Dolphins win this game, they're going to jump the Broncos. This is a huge game in the complexion of the finals. This is a massive, massive game. The Dolphins lose this game. They very well could drop out of the 8 if the Roosters get the job done against the Dogs. They will drop out of the 8 if the Roosters get the job done against the Dogs and they lose. They win this game and they jump the Broncos. Suddenly the Broncos are in doubt for the 8. The Dolphins have the inside running. The Dolphins have a better run home than the Broncos. This is going to be penciled in as the most important game of the season for the Dolphins and probably the Broncos. Now, if both sides show up with semi-finals intensity, if both sides play their best, who's got a better side on paper? You think the Broncos have a better side on paper? Well, I'm not so sure I agree with that without Adam Reynolds and Ezra Mam, because if you go back to before Ezra Mam came back from his hiatus, the Broncos were not the same side. The Broncos without Ezra Mam are 18 points worse team. Then you take Adam Reynolds out. Where are their points going to come from? Do you think that Ben Hunt and who's in the 9, Billy Walters? Do you think Ben Hunt and Billy Walters are capable of actually putting together enough points to actually stem the tide? I know the Dolphins without Herbie are a different proposition, but they've still got Hammer, they've still got Avarillo, they've still got Isako, they've still got Katoa, who's been having a tremendous year. I don't know. And at Suncorp, I just have a feeling that the Dolphins are going to slay them.
For every point you make, it can be counterpointed with the fact that the Broncos have Walsh, Staggs, Shibazaki, Mariner, Ben Hunt, Payne Haas, Patrick Carrigan.
Somebody's got to give him the ball, but Jared.
This is true, and I think that Ben Hunt is probably the greatest backup half ever.
Yeah. He may be, but I actually think he's a bit past it anyway. Did you do your tips? Did you put your score in a man of the match? I didn't.
Yeah, I got about 28-12, and I think Ben Hunt gets man of the match.
All right, I'm going Dolphins 38, Brisbane 12.
Wow. Okay. There you have it.
And I think that the man of the match is going to be Katoa in an absolute arrival game, statement made game against Big Brother. That's my most confident tip of the round, to be honest.
Wow. Well,
not necessarily on the score, but the Dolphins beating the Broncos. That's that. If you want to take one of my tips and actually take it to the bank or hold me accountable for it next week, make it that one. Saturday, 7:35, South Sydney versus the Eels in a game between two sides that are probably not going to make the 8, but there's some interesting storylines here. What do you make of it?
Latrell Mitchell on his late return, confirmed very, very late to be playing in this side at left centre, effectively won South Sydney the game. He was amazing within that first 10 minutes, and made them a 12 or 18 point better team. and speaks to his quality. But obviously, that individual star power is matched on the other side of the ledger by one Mitchell Moses. I am a little bit jealous of Parramatta right now. I think I look at what they're doing, and I think they're doing amazing things, and they are really building something special. And I think that this week will be another week where they continue to grow. I've got Parramatta in this one. I think the score probably sits at around 26-22. I don't think either team's going to be in the mood to defend. Man of the match, the man I just mentioned, Mitchell Moses.
Well, I'm going to do my best to destabilize the shit out of Parramatta on social media this week. So hopefully all of my trolling of Mitch Moses gets across to him. Tag him in all my content. Look, I think Parramatta will win this one and win this one well. They're definitely coming into a purple patch, and South are just really in struggle street. I think Parramatta are going to win this one 28-10. Mitch Moses, man of the match. I don't think it's a very hard game to tip. What's next? We have West Tigers versus Eagles. We've done that one. Cowboys versus the Newcastle Knights in the final match of the round, 4:05 p.m. Sunday in Far North Queensland. Who you got?
This is going to be a stinker. I don't think I think both teams are playing for Mad Monday, to be honest with you. But Todd Payton seems to do pretty well on the bounce back. I think he tends to find something, to instill in his team, and obviously going back to Townsville, I think will help them as well. Really exciting, Connor Vitano playing for the Newcastle Knights. He's a player that I'm very, very high on. Great footballer, makes his debut this week. I think he'll have a good debut, but I just think in regards to the thing that I mentioned around Townsville, Cowboys on the bounce back, I think they win this one, and I don't think that the Knights have the points to go with the Cowboys. I think that this game could blow out to, say, 36-8.
Yeah, real hard game to tip for me. Who knows which sides show up. Obviously, I think that tipping the Cowboys is easy mode, being in Far North Queensland, but the Cowboys can really fucking suck when they're not got their heads in the game. And look, I mean, the Knights usually aren't really showing up of late. They're usually not. They don't really have all that much class. I mean, look at the spine. They got the debutant Vitano with Jake Arthur, Jack Cogger. Jaden Brayley, though, man, he's having a good season. It must be rough being him, because if he was at any of the glamour clubs, he'd be really putting his name up in lights. He's having a real good year.
Well, he is going to Canberra next year. I think that will help him.
100%. So, man, and how much does that suck for Newcastle? he'll win their player of the year, and then off he goes. Anyway, I digress. I'll go Cowboys too. Little storyline: ex-Tiger versus next year's Tiger. John Bateman up against Kai Pearce-Paul, play on the same side of the field too, I think. So it'll be a nice little storyline there. See if they can't see. You know what John Bateman's like. He'll have Kai Pearce-Paul in his sights just because of that, for sure. But anyway, yeah, Cowboys too good here. I'm gonna go 36-6. Yeah,
I think we're in a similar ballpark there, about 2 points.
Yeah, man of the match for me on that one. I'm going to go with John Bateman. Fuck it, why not? I think it'll be.
I'm going his back row partner. I think Nanai. Mate, pathways. I admittedly haven't kept a huge eye on it. I watched your clippings on X in our win against the Silvertails. Obviously, Cup had a week off and the girls had another loss. I'll just line you up and watch you go here, mate.
Yeah. Look, man, I watched the flag game. Let me just remind myself what the result was so that I can remind myself what to say, because I completely blanked.
From memory, I think we...
Oh, it was Kai Reedie, that's right. I did the bloody highlights. Never mind. I've got this. We scored, 9 tries, kicked 1 goal, and it kept Kai Reedie in the game. So we ended up winning 34-22. But 9 tries to 4, I think. And it was Kai Reedie scoring 2 late tries. Got him back to 12. Got him back to within 12 with 9 tries to 4. Imagine if we had got run down from that. It would have been shocking. Boys didn't really turn up. I don't. I think they kind of looked past Coyote, to be honest. It wasn't the best showing, to be honest, coming into the really from their perspective, needing to win, needing to be at their best. Unfortunately, Parramatta also took out the Melbourne Storm, which means that the Parramatta side moved to fourth, Canberra now fifth, but Canberra are 5 points ahead of the Tigers.
Yeah.
So the only way that the Tigers can really make the finals now is if they win 3 games in a row and Canberra lose all 3. It's very, very unlikely to happen. So it doesn't look like the Tigers are going to have any sides in the finals of this year, which sounds sad. It sounds bad. But when you look at it comparable to last year, we didn't make the finals in any grade last year either, but we also got spoons. So it's been improvement. It's just not been enough improvement to see any of our sides make the finals, unfortunately, unless a miracle happens. And the Tigers should try to at least pretend that can still happen until they see whether or not Canberra and Parramatta get wins this weekend. Look, there's still a chance that they could jump Parramatta if Parramatta lose out and the Tigers win out, but they also have to make up an 80 points differential. If that happens, they probably will make up an 80 points differential. So there's 2 paths, both involve one of those sides losing out. And us winning all games. So it's very, very, very unlikely. Look, the best player on the park, I thought, was probably Matai. I thought he had a fantastic game. Had his hands in all the tries. Jared Hayward had a fantastic game too. I thought Max Tautua was pretty much invincible on the right-hand side. Give the ball to him close to the line and he scored. In attack, the guys were pretty strong. I thought Max Lyles had another good result. Look, there's some players in this flag side that I think are going to go on to become pretty good players. This time next year, we might be looking at some of them being 2027 candidates for development contracts or, there's definitely players in this side to keep an eye on. There's obviously the ones that we know are almost morals to be first graders, the likes of Hayward and co. But there's some other guys here too. The likes of, as a lot of people know, Tino Fa'asuamaleaui, know what he's capable of. He did have a pretty good game. He did some pretty Tino-esque things. But I really rate Lyles. I really rate Matai. I really think that they're underestimated. They're largely responsible for a lot of the good things that have happened for this side. They've both got multiple strings to their bow. They can both kick well. They're both good passers. They both run the ball. Really underrated players, to be honest. At our club, we don't really have all that much coming through when it comes to halves, to be honest. Like once you go past the NRL roster, in the pathways, there's not too many coming through that are actually like all that highly regarded. So to see these two kind of kicking on a bit is pretty promising, and they may play quite a bit of New South Wales Cup next year, those two. You didn't watch the game though, did you?
No, I only saw the highlights, unfortunately. As I said, it's been a big weeks coming back.
Was the most I saw from Christian Tarpow more so far. He really, took the bull by the horns and had a red hot crack. He's a bit skinny. He's tall, but he's not very thick. I think that's actually probably not a bad thing because it's probably he's got enough of a frame where I could see him putting on some size pretty easily, like a good off season under the strength and conditioning of the NRL side, and come round 1, he might be a bit of a beast. He's definitely got the height. I think he's like 6'5". He's
a bit tall. Yeah, I think he's a big boy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got chicken legs, and he's not very wide, but good player, but definitely runs hard, has a red hot crack. Phoenix Godinay did some great things. He's definitely come back from the schoolboys games a different player. He's built a lot of confidence out of having that great result, making the schoolboys starting 13. I honestly think he'll play on NRL next year. I think he'll get blooded next year. I don't know if he'll push himself through into like consistent first grade, but I actually expect him to blood him next year.
Well, there you have it.
I think if you follow any Pathways player on Instagram, make it him, because his content is actually really inspiring to what for a young player. Most of his content is about football, how to play it, showing kids how to play football. He gets involved with his dad's coaching clinics that he runs. You'd know more about it than I do.
But you are absolutely correct. He coaches young fellows, mentors them 1-to-1 as teams that he coaches. Yeah. Like you hear the fucking saying, oh, he's a student of the game bandied around everywhere. Phoenix genuinely is a student and a teacher. It's really cool.
There was one video I saw where he was literally like breaking down how to make tackle breaks, like as an attacking player. And he's like, you get your bumpers up and you spin, and like he's like showing himself doing it at the same time. And then you watch him play,
and he puts it in practice.
That's right. Like he's not just talking shit. Like he is a thinking footballer, and considering he's undersized, that's a big thing for him. He needs to be able to make up that size deficit, and he makes it up in tenacity. He makes it up in power, speed, and massive footy IQ, massive raps on Phoenix. I think he's a fantastic player. Let's talk about NRLW. Those girls, oh man, they've edged me a few times this year so far. They were paying $9 to beat Newcastle, and they were in this game up to their fucking eyeballs until about the 65th minute, which has been the way. They came out from after half time and they went at it. They were having a red hot crack without Lutu, who has been, obviously she's their primary ball handler and main playmaker and kicker and goal kicker and all of that. They've got a young rugby convert, Faith Minera, playing 7 in Lutu's absence, and I thought she was pretty good. I thought, and she's got raps. She's international, so she's not exactly coming without raps. A little bit of an under the radar signing, I think. And I thought, the same players that always play well played well. Togatuki played well. Kizzy Apps played well. The one player that I've called out in this side multiple times so far this season as really standing out is Montana Clifford. So Montana Clifford's a back rower, not the biggest, but she's pretty classy. She seems to beat the first defender a lot. She's got good leg speed. She's got good skills. She gets in the back line and she can pass the ball well. She seems pretty rapid. She makes some pretty good dominant contact in defense, and she's very young. So I feel like Montana Clifford, there's something about her that makes me think she's going to go into higher honours. I think of all of the players in this side who aren't already kind of like well established, she's probably the one that I would probably keep my eye on the most from that perspective.
Yeah, I know you rate her pretty highly. And rightly so. I actually agree with you. I've seen a fair amount of upside from her throughout most of the year in a pretty tough year for the girls. Nonetheless, 11:50 on Sunday at Allianz before the boys. If you are going out to Allianz to watch the men's, make sure you get down there early. Allianz is a great stadium for the spectators, not so much for the players. Get out there and support them. And this is a winnable game against the Dragons, 11th place, 10th. Lozana would have made it a little bit more of a chance, I guess. But look, rugby league is played by 2 teams. In this instance, over 70 minutes, you just don't know what could happen. Fingers crossed on a win for them, and for everybody around that squad, everyone, that'd be really ideal. So, see what happens.
Could be a good week for the Tigers, because we're playing the Rabbitohs in New South Wales Cup, and Rabbitohs are not a good side in New South Wales Cup. We've got a winnable game in Flag. We've got a winnable game in NRLW. We've got a winnable game in NRL. Could be a good week.
Could be. Mate, where are we up to next? Are we up to questions?
We're up to Max Quantum Take.
Begin.
All right, this segment is called Max Quantum Take. Now, for those who have listened to me for a long time, you know that sometimes I can go on some pretty ethereal rants and pretty cosmic rants. But this week I want to talk about a conspiracy theory. And I posted up a little video about it on TikTok. /West Tigers Faithful. For those who haven't followed yet, please do. It's awesome. I'm really, really good at TikTok. It's incredible stuff. The conspiracy theory I have is that Stafford Todd has already agreed in principle to go to R360. Now, this conspiracy theory stems from putting 1 + 1 + 1 together and getting 3, I think. I'm pretty confident I'm on the money on this one. Now, there's every chance Stafford Toa re-signs this week and I end up looking like a complete goose. But hear me out. You will remember Stafford Toa, rumoured as an extension, was a news story that dropped, and there would have been smoke to this. There's a news story. Stafford Toa is about to ink his extension. Now, that would have come almost certainly from somebody on the inside at the Tigers who were like, yeah, we've got a deal over the line. That, to me, sort of indicates Stafford might have given them a verbal. Because it's to me, like, there's always smoke to those sort of, like, the way it was put out in the media was pretty confident. Now, he came out almost immediately afterwards, well, within 24 hours afterwards on Instagram saying rumours. And there has been nothing said about it since. Around the same time, there was a piece that got dropped by, I believe it was Buzz, who said that he heard through the grapevine, Buzz, mate, he's like the freaking Varys, Lord Varys, the fat eunuch from Game of Thrones. That's Buzz. He heard that Justin Pascoe and Lee Hadjipantelis were spotted at, what's the Grappa? Is that the name of the restaurant? Grappa restaurant. Do you want to give them a shout out? I've never been. Good restaurant.
I haven't been, but I genuinely I have not heard a bad word said about it ever.
Well, where is it?
Leichhardt.
All right, I'll ping them when we post this one up as a short on TikTok, and hopefully they reshare it. Grappa, get around it. They were spotted at Grappa with 3 top 17 West Tigers players, not contracted, top 17 West Tigers players. And you really, who would that be? Like, is it going to be the Fainu brothers? I don't think so. It doesn't really make that much sense, does it? It's got to be somebody who was there when they were there that they had a rapport with. Who's been at the Tigers for a little while? There's only a few of them, eh? Like, if you go back to like when Lee and Justin would have had friends with the playing group, there's only Doueihi, Toa,
Seafar.
and Seafar. Yeah. And so that got me thinking. I was like, and in that story, Buzz said that there was some unpleasant words exchanged about Benji Marshall. And Wayne Bennett was also apparently there. Now, this all coincided with a bit of a dip in Stafford's form, I might add. I know he got injured. But he kept getting picked. So, you know, he must have been still turning up on the training paddock. But anyway, that's a little bit galaxy-brained. Now, it came out not long ago that Justin Pascoe and Lee Hadjipantelis had been tapped by the organisers of the R360 as potential investors. Do you see where I'm going with this, Jared?
Oh, I do. I do.
Now, it's actually come out since, allegedly, that Lee Hadjipantelis is now actually officially investing in R360. So we have 3 players, one of whom is very likely to be Stafford Toa. I think it's a pretty sure bet. Stafford Toa has dinner with potential investors of R360 who then eventually become R360. He's rumored to be extending with the Tigers, and suddenly his deals was never happening. I think there's something to that quantum take. What do you think?
It has merit. It has merit, absolutely. But I'm really, really curious about a lot of people's thoughts in the Tigers sphere about Stafford. Like, I do think he's a priority. He's a retention priority for the club, and I understand that R360 are throwing genuine cash around. But yeah, it's a really interesting one at the minute. And look, again, it has gone quiet. But as far as I was aware and what I was told, that deal was pretty close to being done. I would be surprised if, you know, he up at R360. But once again, given your ability to read the tea leaves and look into the stars and pull these things out, I would be wrong to doubt you. So I'm going to sit on the fence on this one.
Fair enough. Look, I mean, that's an upgrade. That's better than the past. You know, you're learning from experience, and I appreciate that. Let's do some Q&A and get the fuck out of here. What do you reckon?
I'm with you. Let's do it.
Did you see how I just like self censored? Do you notice that? That's a skill, isn't it? I was like, let's get the fuck out of here. Like, that's a skill.
That
like,
is a skill.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. All right. So first question, we have Jay in the stream asking if somebody in the chat is the NRL Shadow. That's an interesting question to ask, I might add, because NRL Shadow's blocked us on X, and I have no idea why, because I used to retweet his stuff. I think he's pretty funny. I know a lot of Tigers fans hate the guy.
I love him, Cuz, at the table. I think he's fucking awesome. Just quickly, Jay Wick is the great tie-dye / PCP / Hawkeye, and I think that his lack of sleep is now stretched out to 5 days. I don't think that's Shadow.
Yeah, okay. I mean, maybe he was just seeing shadows in his bedroom then. But already, shout out to Jay Wick. He is a big fan of the podcast and helps us out enormously. So good on the bloke. Next question: did AD always have this? Did he just need to play more than 11 games a year? Why can't AD kick from 13? That's a lot of questions.
Yeah, I think he always did have it. The issue was always around his defensive output. Of course, he can kick from 13. I don't think that he would be the first choice kicker, but if we have a terrible yardage set like we often do, and we are pinned within our own 20 or 30, yeah, he'll be the one half on the ball downfield. I like the idea of Doueihi through the middle corridor and Fa'asuamaleaui and Luai in the wider ones, but obviously I'm not the coach, so we'll see what happens.
You can pull the receipts. Somebody can pull the receipts. I said in the preseason, I'm really curious. I want to see the Doueihi Luai halves combination. I said, round fucking 22 before we get to see it. It's like, I understand, in the preseason we had Galvin coming off an amazing season, amazing year. I get your start there, but I really wanted to see it. And I think there was so many opportunities earlier in the year to pick Doueihi at 7 that should have been taken. And look, I hope that Benji gets a little bit more decisive when it comes to this. And the big lesson that I think I want Benji to learn from this, here I am telling Benji Marshall how to fucking be an NRL pundit. The big lesson I hope that he takes as a coach is don't underestimate experience versus rookies, because that was my mentality towards it. Like, I wanted to see the most experienced spine that we could put together playing together, because we were such an untested group that didn't have cohesion, right? It's so hard to find your own footing in the NRL at the same time as also trying to build cohesive units. So that was my thinking, and I think it's in retrospect proven pretty accurate. And yeah, I do think that there's a lot to say that he's been coming back from ACL injuries and things like that, and it does take time. All right, next question: where does Javon fit in this picture?
I think we actually answered that when we were talking about Javon. I don't see him as first grade material for at least a couple of years. He is that big gangly half, but as a result, I don't think he has much sort of beef up top and through his sort of power base, his ass and his legs. I think that he might get a debut at the end of next year, but regular first grade probably right at the end of his deal, 28 or 29.
Couple questions about Tino. These actually dropped before we even had the segment on Tino, which is pretty interesting. Do you think we should make a play for Tino?
I think you should absolutely make a play for him. I think, you can make a lot of arguments around he is exactly what we need, but in terms of what the price point is, I'm sort of struggling to work out what you would sort of offer him. You wouldn't want to insult him, but also you would want to be, mindful of your salary cap and those sorts of things. What's he worth? He's definitely not worth 1.5 in my book. I think, you look at his age and his leadership and obviously what he's done in the game already, not at the Titans, sort of at Melbourne and playing for Queensland. Maybe you could pay him just on 7 figures, 1 to 1.1, with some generous third parties tipped in. And we do have the money to do that, but whether or not we'll be at the table, I'm not too sure.
So this question is pretty long, but we'll just read the back half of it there. Why not make Doueihi the 6? Is that not his position? Doueihi 6, Luai 7, Latu as the backup. Like, why not go with Doueihi in his best position, considering he's the best player in the team right now?
No. I still think Jerome Luai is the better 5'8". I think that Adam Doueihi is the better halfback than Jerome Luai. I think that Latu Fa'asuamaleaui could potentially be the better 7 than Adam Doueihi, but right now I think that AD is the 7. But what you also have to remember first is the fact that Adams had a couple of ACLs since he was playing six, and that has affected his speed. Now, actually, it's affected his acceleration, not necessarily his speed. When he gets in the clear, he's untouchable. But I think in terms of his ability to accelerate into the line, shift up gears, and those different types of things, he's more befitting of a number 7 than it is a number 6, and even more befitting of a number 13 than it is a number 7. So for me, I wouldn't be shifting him to 6. No.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have to kind of just go with Luai as a 6 moving forward. I think we tried him for half a year as a 7. He's looked better since he's been playing 6. I think that Latu Fainu has more potential as a 7 because he's earlier in his career and you can build him as a 7. But as I've discussed in the past, I think Jerome Luai is the finished product as a 6. And we paid a fortune for him. He's a 4-time premiership winning 6. It's madness not to play him in his best position at this point in time. The fact is he was only not playing 6 because we had Lachlan Galvin.
With you there. I agree.
This might be a bit boring, but why not? Thoughts on the club switching from Steedon to Canterbury? Actually, you have an opinion on this.
Oh, fucking... Can you imagine the rugby polos we're going to get next year? They are going to be mint. I'm hoping predominantly... I'm hoping for, like, hoops, like black and white hoops with, like, some orange
Oh.
That would be shit hot. Or if you went, like, totally black, like All Blacks, white collar, orange embroidery, I think we could do something like that. Like straight out, like... The gear is going to be fucking unreal. Like the spray jackets and stuff. You got to remember that they're a New Zealand-based company. All that stuff is going to be A1. I'm not sure on polos. I'm really, really keen on the jersey. I think it's been a long time, really long time since we've seen Canterbury do a rugby league jersey. But very, very excited to see what they come up with. And it's the reason I haven't bought a jersey because I've known that this deal was in the offing since probably December last year.
You've known?
Yeah.
Fuck, you got some inside tips, bro. That Dan Talentire. Whoever keeps giving Dan Talentire information, you gotta stop because he keeps being Jared the beast, bro. I'm just kidding. Jared's never told me anything, and I've never heard any information from Jared. All of my tips come from the Quantum.
Actually. The hoops rugby jersey that I'm thinking, like if we incorporate orange, do you remember the 2014 Heritage jersey that we absolutely slapped Manly at Leichhardt that day, and it went white, black, orange, white, black, orange?
Love that jersey.
We get that in a rugby polo long sleeve. Fucking, you'll have to put my penis in a wheelchair.
I love that jersey, and the funny thing about that jersey is we had no success ever in that stripe.
Yeah.
So it's but anyway, it's a good looking jersey. Let's go on. What were we going to say?
I wasn't going to say anything. Keep going. No. I'm just looking for the jersey now. I just want to have a look. Yeah, that's a cracker. I'm hoping for a similar storyline this week where we absolutely bash them. Charlie definitely going to Catalan. Yes. Thoughts on Skelton as our long-term winger? I don't think he's the long-term winger. I think he's the guy that falls out. Defense worries me. Yeah, it worries me too. But I think that, with Hiamasi Makasini breathing down his neck, obviously Tony Adams got that scoop wrong. I breathed a sigh of relief. And, yeah, it's Mussey's last game at Newington. So as per his scholarship commitments, he has to play there. But yeah, I do think that Skelly falls out of the 17 once Mussey is ready.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I find it a little bit difficult to bet against Gerald Skelton. Okay, I feel like he's been playing injured. Now I don't know for sure if that's true, but I feel like he hasn't been the same player since he came back from injury. Before he went off injured, everybody was like, "What a find, yeah, Gerald Skelton." So look, I think let's not underestimate one really critical fact, and that's that Gerald Skelton is probably 50 NRL games away from his best version.
That's a good point.
He is a very inexperienced NRL player. He has played a grand total of 20 games of NRL in his career. He is 26, so he is probably 1 to 2 years away from his peak physical prime too, but he is the finished physical article at 26. With another off-season under his belt after a year of genuine, consistent first grade for the first time, he's gonna know what he's in for now. He's gonna know what he did wrong. He's gonna know what he did wrong in his prep. I wouldn't underestimate Jarrell Skelton one iota. Marcy, obviously, is, you know how I feel about him. I feel about him the same way you do. I think he's an absolute moral. But I'm not 100% sure that I think that Jarrell Skelton's going to be the one that makes way for Marcy. I think that it might, Marcy might just push himself straight into that left centre position come round one next year. I think Taylor May has right centre potential, wing potential. I think Marcy to me is probably going to take about 2 or 3 weeks in the off-season training to pretty much stamp himself as the must-pick outside backs prospect in this team. I don't really think that Marcy is a risk. So it's less like I think Marcy's going to push Jarrell out. I think Marcy's just going to take the left centre position, which means it's not really going to be Jarrell that's going to be left searching for a spot. Maybe they move May to left wing and Jarrell drops out that way, maybe. But anyway, I digress. The next question is on Ethan Roberts. Is he big enough to be a potential middle?
Yeah, he is. And I think that the biggest question around Ethan is lateral movement and speed. He can hit a hole beautifully, but he can also hit a hole in the middle corridor. You know, he doesn't necessarily have to do it on a halfback's, you know, inside or outside shoulder. He can do it on a back rower's inside shoulder. So, you know, there is upside there, you know, for him to play middle, and he has at the Roosters in cup in bits and pieces, and I've got to watch it. I've got to watch a bit of that tape, but back row is his position of choice, and I think that he has been recruited as such.
Yeah, I think that the Roosters actually view him as a middle, which is why they have kind of moved past him. I think that they think that he is a middle moving forward. I think his floor is kind of like a Fletcher Baker. I think he's a pretty similar kind of prototype. The Roosters just roll those kind of like freaking rugby kid, white bread fucking back rowers that turn into middle stuff to the Nat Butcher. You know, there are a dime a dozen at the Roosters. So, yeah, he definitely is big enough. But whether he has the mentality of a middle forward, we don't know enough about him to say. Dane Laurie has been released by the Panthers. Would you bring him back?
The backup fullback wouldn't go astray, but I don't think we have the I don't think we have the room in the 30.
No, I mean, you're saying that we need to sign an outside back. Dane Laurie's not the worst winger in the world.
I think we need a centre, like a predominantly centre-based outside back. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing him on a training trial. Like, if he can't find himself a top 30 deal somewhere, he'd be one of the best New South Wales Cup players running around.
Oh, without doubt. But I think he'll pick up a full-time deal somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. And also, I guess it depends. Like, you know, if Dane Laurie's still sitting there in December with no NRL contract, and, you know, maybe we've done a little bit of like cost-cutting measures and maybe we've moved on a few players here or there, the Kits of the world, you know, maybe the Heath Mason or something like that. Like, we find, you know, we decide to move off of them and somehow get off those contracts. You know, at that point, you know, if you got Dane Laurie as your 30th player on the roster, it's better than having bloody, you know, who we've got on the roster in the 30th position right now. So there are ways in which I could see it, but in the current composition of the roster, I agree with you, Jared. I don't think that he's the right person to be going for as a top 30 spot. If you could switch Heath Mason for Dane Laurie, you'd do it in a heartbeat, though, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, I think so.
All right, what else have we got here? Oh, yeah, one on Logan Brooks. So can Logan Brooks add centre or wing to his game?
You can answer that better than I can, but I'll just jump in quickly and say that I think he's better suited to 6 than he is centre or wing, and even then I don't even think that's him. I think fullback's his position. Yeah,
people who know him a little bit better than I do, like, think that size is going to be an issue for Logan. I mean, to me on the eye test, he kind of looks like a normal size fullback, and he's young, and he wouldn't have had, like, you know, the pleasure of an NRL gym, you know, so he's not the biggest version of himself yet. He doesn't look undersized flag fullback. He's definitely not a massive fullback by any stretch of the imagination. He's like a Ryan Pappenhausen sort of sized fullback. He's not Joash Papali, but he's normal. Reece Walsh, Keanu Kinney, Ryan Pappenhausen sort of sized fullback.
Yeah.
So centre, you wouldn't really want big centres running at him. Like if Katoni Staggs or Tomoko or something like that lined him up in the centres. And I don't see Logan Brooks at any age being able to play centre against centres like that. Charlie Staines style winger, yeah, he's lightning fast. He'd be an excellent finisher. He's very athletic.
Yeah.
If he became a gym rat, you could see him as like a Xavier Savage style winger for sure. That is a prototype. There is a possibility of that. I don't think he's much smaller than Tino Tavana, who's playing wing and flag. So that's possible. He has played plenty of six, as Jared said. He's played heaps and heaps of six, coming through the grades up in Final Queensland. So he is more of a six. But yeah, that's kind of him. I think is like one. When Teddy came in the NRL as a West Tigers player, he wasn't the biggest, and he played some wing. So I think there is potential to see Logan sort of go that direction. Maybe that's how he debuts in New South Wales Cup or something like that. What else we got? Do we end up lamenting you? Oh, let's talk about our prospects here. Because people keep talking about us like we have a chance of making the finals. Now, I think mathematically we actually have a better chance of making the finals than our flag team. To be honest, like the NRL side actually have more paths to get into the finals than the flag side do. Right now, we are on 22 competition points, and the 8th place Dolphins are on 26. Now, obviously, the Dolphins are playing the Broncos this week. So if the Dolphins lose and we win, and the Roosters lose, the Roosters being also on 26 competition points. Now, obviously, as always is the case at this time of the year, we are miles behind both of those sides on points differential. So we would have to get ahead of them outright, and they're so far ahead of us on points differential that there's no making it up, no matter which way you cut it. The Dolphins are on 119 plus, we're on 121 negative, so we'd have to make up 200 points in 4 rounds. There's 4 rounds remaining, isn't there?
There is.
So that ain't happening unless the Dolphins and the Roosters both get. The Roosters on 72 too, so it's pretty much for much. So we're going to have to win out pretty much for sure. I mean, there are models you can come up with where we can lose once. It is possible for us to make the 8 with finishing up on 28. It is possible, but it involves both the Dolphins and the Roosters losing out, and the Sea Eagles only winning no more than one more game. So tough, tough but doable. I think personally that it's gonna be pretty much. I think what I actually feel like we're going to end up in equal 8th, but we're going to miss on points differential. I think is what's going to end up happening.
Wow.
Because I think in the run home we're going to win it. We're going to win our fair share of games. I have us finishing on 28 competition points. Wow. And I think that the Roosters will only end up on 28 competition points also. I think that the Dolphins will also end up on 28 competition points. So that's what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to be 3 teams that end up on 28 competition points, and we're just going to get absolutely tortured by the points differential. Because I got the Roosters and the Dolphins. I got the Dolphins winning this weekend, but I think that they're going to struggle for the rest of the year after this weekend. I got the Roosters losing this weekend, and I think that the Roosters are going to struggle too in the run home. So that's how I see it. And that would be a pretty good improvement as far as things progress. But the question then becomes, what games this year that we should have and could have won, and where would we be? I mean, the one that springs to mind, and I know it's the one that'll spring to your mind, is Lachlan Garvin dropping the ball over the try line.
We already spoke about that today. And yes, but look, you lament games in every season. The last 3 Spoon years, I've sat back and gone, okay, well, this game was close, who knows where we could have ended up. You're always lamenting them. So yes, of course we will. And it hurts because those games will write up we were in them right up to our eyeballs. South, we should have won. Newcastle, we should have won. New Zealand, we should have won. Canberra, we could have. Penrith, we could have. Yeah, that's an extra 10 competition points. And suddenly you're talking about whether or not we can make top 4, let alone the 8. But that's the way rugby league goes. It's a game of very, very fine margins, and your season and your form line can spiral out of control as a result. Did I think we were going to make the 8 this year? No, I didn't. I said it from the start of the year, from our season preview. But where we end up from here, I'm not too sure. But one thing I do know for sure is whether you like it or not, whether you're pro-Benji, anti-Benji, whether you support another side, we have improved out of sight, and we are only going to get better.
Well, look, unless the Titans win every game from here, we aren't going to win the spoon. So that means that it's an improvement. And you know what? Even if somehow by some miracle we do, we've done it with 8 wins, which still puts us as the most wins that we've had since 2019. So it's an improved year.
With you there.
All right. One on the NRLW. Is it time for Noddy to relinquish the reins? Seems like lineups he's just throwing anything out there. I think that's a little bit harsh.
I think it's similar to the lean years that we've just experienced with the men's side. I don't think the squad is good enough to compete. They need to invest, and therefore it's the chicken and the egg conundrum with Benji Marshall. I give Noddy more time. I think that you have seen improvement in that side, albeit marginal. I would stay the course right now and review things at the end of the year, because they are playing for him. It's just ultimately, again, they don't have the squad to compete.
Yeah, I agree. I think I want to see him one more time. Having had this new head of football, Charmaine Stevenson, come in and make some signings and progress some of these young players. It's a very young roster. I mean, but I think people forget too. It was only 2 or 3 years ago the West Tigers won the New South Wales Women's Premiership, and that was with a very young team, and a lot of them are actually starting to come through. So it's a whip. It's a work in progress. And last question is around our salary cap. Ethan asks, when we have to re-sign Bula, like, where is our salary cap at? Like, that's going to put us in a pretty, like, we're pretty much set, right? We've kind of got a side who is pretty, like, penciled in. We don't really have much salary cap space left, do we?
I occasionally give people inside information. Occasionally I don't. I'll give you this scoop. The Tigers have $1 million spare in their salary cap.
So what, as in they're playing $1 million under this year?
No, they're not playing $1 million under.
Oh, they've got the $1 million that they were going to give Lachlan.
They've still got $1 million to spend for 2026. There is nothing wrong with that. 2027, the way that any director of football worth their salt will ensure that any options and stuff are already accounted for in the cap. Dream's option would absolutely be already accounted for, because they're going to take it. Of course they're going to take it. He's so important to this side, and you see, and it is, outlined further every single week that he comes back from injury. But yeah, you can be bullish on the prospects of the Tigers making waves in the postseason. Shane Richardson will be shaking that tree as he did last year. I can assure you of that. Do not be worried about our salary cap. There's upgrades to come. For sure, but there's money to be spent.
Good to know. And with that, I'm assuming that the plan is, just like he did last year, to just wait and see who falls out of the trees. Because last year, Terrell May fell out of the trees.
With you there, mate. I wouldn't expect much movement from here on the signings front, unless something, as you say, falls out of the colloquial tree. I think that they will wait now and spend their money.
Wonder, like, is there any players around that sort of have been kind of agitating? There's been rumors. It's like maybe or maybe not. Like maybe a particularly good young player that's been dropped, fallen out of foot. Anyone spring to mind?
No one for me. Are you teaming up for something? Do you know something? Is there something that you're seeing?
No, but these rumors persist about Joey Manu, and I know that he's I know he's just like re-upped for this rugby contract, but you know what things are like with these rugby deals, these rugby converts, these guys that have gone overseas and they're away from home. And I know Joey Manu's best mates are at our club, and I know Joey Manu loves Benji Marshall. So these rumours persist. These rumours persist.
Indeed, they do, my friend. We will see what happens. But the main thing is, Ethan, money to spend, my friend. And Blaine, I'm just going to say really quickly, Trey Mooney, no, not that one, although I do like that message. Trey Mooney will not be coming to West Tigers because we are not going to pay $550,000 for him like the Newcastle Knights are. It is as simple as that. We won't get in bidding wars. And I'm glad we won't because he's not worth that money. It's as simple as that. Good player. I think he'll do really well. He is a first grader. He's not worth that money.
He has a 97.6% tackle efficiency.
That is all well and good. He is not worth that money. Do you think that he's worth 100K less than?
No, I think it would be silly. I think it's silly that Newcastle are doing it. I feel like if I was a Newcastle fan, I would be absolutely terrified of what's about to happen to them.
They are the team to watch next year. My goodness.
Dylan Brown paying $1.2 million for Parramatta centre. I don't know about that. But that being said, Jared, I do think, while it makes no sense to do it, I think Mooney will pan out. I think he's a good player. I think he'll pan out. I think he'll
pedigree. He is a great player. He was a New South Wales under-19s captain, somebody extremely highly regarded by Parramatta coming through the system, and they were filthy when they lost him to Canberra. He's an out-and-out first grader with the potential for a lot more as he gets older. I just don't think that he's worth that money right now. That's just me.
No, I agree with you. But I do think that one will pan out for them. He'll come in and do a better job than Leo Thompson, who's leaving, in my opinion. That's the show. That's it. 7:09. We had it penciled in for 70 minutes, and it's gone 129 minutes. So we this was the debut of our new format, as put up on the stories on TikTok and Instagram. We tried very hard to keep it tight, but we are just too passionate here at West Tigers Faithful. We just cannot stop talking about West Tigers, and the party doesn't end these days with the Tuesday episode because, as we've been saying throughout the episode, we are now pretty active on TikTok, Instagram, and we've always been pretty active over on X. TikTok, we're West Tigers Faithful on TikTok. We're Tigers Faithful on X. We're West Tigers Faithful on Instagram. We're posting up lots and lots of stuff. We'll post up clips from the podcast, but we're also going to post up old footage from past games. We've thrown up the Benji field goal. We've thrown up a couple of cursed moments. We've thrown up the soft whistle. And I've got something in the can that I'm going to drop right now. That I think you'll all like, but you have to jump over onto the TikTok. You have to jump over onto the TikTok or the Instagram, and you'll see what it is. It's one of Reedie's favourite moments of all time, and I think it's the one Tigers moment that's probably the favourite of the general NRL fandom too. And I think if you think about what I'm potentially referring to, you might be able to pick up what I'm putting down. Because it's going to be pretty fun. This has been West Tigers Faithful. I'm Mac. That's Jared. Like and subscribe. If you're listening back to this on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or on YouTube or, I don't know, somehow through the satellites of Starlink and you're in Alpha Centauri, please subscribe. Please like. Give us some love. We do it for the love. And we will see you again next week. And hey, that was buy round. I did pretty good for buy round. I think, when we actually have some proper material to talk about, it's probably going to be even more fun.
Indeed. Enjoy your weeks, guys. Go on.
It's just queuing up. Takes a little while.
We're only strangers.